Hi everyone, I'm Nikolai, and in this video I'll make a comparison between Forza Horizon 5 and the CREW MOTORFEST. Yes, I know it's been a while since both games came out, but there were lots of new updates to both Forza Horizon 5 and CREW MOTORFEST. New seasons, new cars, new activities were added, and they kind of looked really different from how they looked originally, so I thought it would be interesting to look at them once again. And another reason for making this video is because I recently looked up the Steam reviews for both games, and Forza Horizon 5 has very positive reviews, while CREW MOTORFEST has mixed ones. I think this is a bit unfair. I get that many people have Ubisoft phobia, but come on. This game really deserves more, and in fact many of you will be pretty surprised by the result of this video. So the way I'm gonna do that is I'll go for different categories such as physics, graphics, map and so on, and then in the end we'll sum up everything and see which game is better overall. It's as simple as that. So let's get started. First, we have the graphics. Yeah, I know the graphics are not important, blah blah blah, but come on. If for example Forza Horizon 5 would look something like this, I really doubt that any of you would ever play it, no matter how good the physics are, how big the map is, and so on. Okay, so Forza Horizon 5 has amazing graphics. It's been 3 years since the release, but it still looks great. All the reflections, the shadows around the car look very good. One thing that Forza does particularly better than CREW is the anti-aliasing situation. I don't know what's going on with Ubisoft games, but the image just never looks as smooth in these games. It's hard to see this on the video, but if you ever played some of the latest Assassin's Creed games, for example, you probably know what I mean. Forza just looks so smooth and so perfect, you can really tell that Microsoft really took their time to polish this game. I think, however, that CREW does better than Forza is the overall level of detail. This shouldn't be a surprise though, as the game came in 2023, which is like 2 years after Forza. There is more grass, there is more detailed dirt, the trees looks nicer, and so on. When you drive into a forest, for example, it really feels like a forest. It gets darker, there's a huge amount of vegetation around you, it really looks cool. Forza Horizon is just more modest in this aspect. Regarding performance, both games are kind of the same. I played on a laptop with RTX 4060 with 2K resolution on ultra settings, and it was alright. Forza, however, kind of eats a huge amount of VRAM, like twice more than CREW or something, and it freezes sometimes. It is not often, but it happens. I also have to mention that Forza supports some of the NVIDIA technologies for AI and stuff like that. CREW does not have any of that. So overall, I'll give Forza 1 point in this round, and CREW receives 0.7. And this is how it's gonna be for the rest of the video. So the game that wins the round always gets 1 point, and the other game just receives somewhere between 0 and 1. Next, we have the physics. This is a very delicate topic when reviewing arcade racing games, but I'll try my best. Forza Horizon 5 has fantastic physics. It has already been great in Forza Horizon 4, so for this game they just kind of improved what already worked pretty well. Every car feels very different. You'll instantly feel the difference between driving some front wheel car, like a Honda Civic for example, and any rear wheel car. And this difference is kind of one of the major things that motivates you towards trying other cars in the game, just because they drive so different. It's also a totally different experience driving some GT car that just sticks to the asphalt and driving some old Drift Supra, for example. Also, if you play on a PC, no matter what, you have to play with a gamepad at least. If you play on a keyboard, I think you should just be banned from this game, like you are missing so much. This game has a very good vibration feedback, so for example if you touch the right curb off the road just a little bit, you'll instantly feel it. It's so satisfying. It's also a lot of pleasure just driving very slowly or even like respecting the driving rules. The physics are great, this is what I want to say. Now we have the CREW MOTORFEST. I will start with the good part. If you ever played the CREW 2 game, I assume many of you did because the game was like $1 some time ago on Steam. So if you played that game, you can be relieved because Ubisoft made completely new physics for this game. So the question is it any good now? In my opinion, the answer is more of a yes than no. The CREW MOTORFEST is now more similar to the recent Need for Speed games, so if you played any of them, you can expect something similar. The driving also became a bit more challenging, and it takes some time getting used to it. Overall, the biggest difference between Forza and CREW is that Forza is trying to be more like a simulator, while CREW keeps things more arcade. And to be fair, this arcade style has some downsides. First of all, in CREW MOTORFEST, all cars drive very similar to each other, and all of them start drifting at some point. Seriously, even Formula 1 cars in this game drift, which is quite funny. Secondly, you just cannot expect the same level of detail for physics like you do from Forza. What you see right now is what happens when you just barely press the right trigger on your gamepad. There is some burnout going on with smoke and everything, like what's going on? I just barely pushed the pedal, that's pretty funny. Okay, so overall, I'll give Forza the win in this round and it receives 1 point. The CREW gets 0.5. Like I said, the physics in CREW aren't bad, but Forza is just on a whole different level. The next category is the sound. So the sound was kind of always a big topic since the very first day CREW MOTORFEST was even announced, and indeed, the game is quite good in this aspect. The thing is, Ubisoft added all sort of audio for every car. This is very noticeable, especially with some old tuned Japanese cars. You'll hear all the turbo sounds, all the revs, all the toot and so on. Take a listen. And that's indeed pretty cool. Sometimes you just put your car into neutral and give it some revs and just enjoy the sound it makes. Really awesome. Forza, on the other hand, sounds a bit more boring. Especially if you start tuning your cars. For some reason they all just start sounding the same if you do that. Forza has only one advantage. The quality of the audio itself is better. In other words, the sound is just more clean. In CREW, on the other hand, when you have both the sounds of cars, the sounds of nature, the music and all of that, I just have an impression that the audio gets slightly distorted. And it's not just me dreaming, because I noticed the same thing in many other Ubisoft games I've played before. But overall, I'll still give the win to CREW MOTORFEST in this round, which is 1 point, and Forza gets 0.7. Next, we have the category called Fast Travel and Comfort of Playing. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but you'll get it in a second. First of all, we have fast travel. Forza Horizon does not have fast travel. And I know some dude in comments will of course write, but you can unlock fast travel in Forza. Yes, I know you can do that, but you have to grind, really grind to do that. And nobody wants to do that. Every single time you want to start some race, you need to drive to that race in Forza. If you have already completed that race in the past, you still need to drive there. And if you are already in a race with your friend and you want to restart it, no, there is no restart button out there in Forza. That would be too easy. What you have to do is you have to cancel that race, and then from that point where you cancelled it, you have to drive to the start of the race. Like, oh my god, Forza, why Forza? Why so much suffering? I swear, like 80% of the time in this game, I wasn't racing. I was just driving to some race. Like, I get it, the map is wonderful. The NPC cars driving past you are great, but not when you do it for like the 30th time. It just gets so annoying and honestly stupid, just so stupid. And what about CREW MOTORFEST? Well, unfortunately, the situation is not perfect here either. I was really expecting they would just copy the mechanics from CREW 2, their previous game, where you could pretty much just teleport from anywhere to anywhere, but they didn't. Now you have to complete, I think, like 10 playlists until you can unlock the full fast travel functionality. And until then, you can still teleport to many of the races you have completed previously, as well to the playlist locations and many other points on the map, but not straight to new races. So overall, it's still way better than Forza. Also, a small life hack if you're just starting with a game. In CREW MOTORFEST, you can instantly switch between a car and a plane, for example, so you can just fly on a straight line to whatever place you need. This is quite useful. A few words regarding the overall comfort of playing. So I have to give some credit to Ubisoft. Overall, I believe they just kind of have more experience in making games than Forza developers do. So some of the things in CREW MOTORFEST just make more logic and common sense. Like, for example, you can instantly restart the race in CREW. As we found out previously, it's actually a pain in the ass to do in Forza. Also, you can conveniently set a difficulty before the race even starts. In CREW, there is like a nice screen with plenty of options before you start the race. In Forza, you have to go to settings, blah blah blah, very complicated. In CREW, if you want to modify your car, you just press pause and modify it. Once you are done, you just continue from the same place. In Forza, you first go to your garage, you select your car, you modify it, then you spawn again near your stupid garage, and then just drive for like 10 minutes to the place you need to go. Like, again, very complicated. Unfortunately, both games, you cannot just play them directly from Steam. No, that would be too easy. For Forza, you need your Microsoft account. And for CREW, you need your Ubisoft Connect launcher and then an account there as well. So overall, I will give in this round 1 point to CREW MOTORFEST and Forza gets 0.4. Next, we have the cars. First, we look at the numbers. I'm making this video in late October 2024, and at this moment, CREW MOTORFEST has around 600 vehicles, while Forza has 815. So obviously, Forza kind of wins. However, there is a very little but pretty important thing to add here. Pretty much every single car, I highlight, every single car from real life that came out after 2021 or 2022, you cannot just go and buy it in Forza. No. That would be, again, too simple. Instead, you have to go and buy a DLC for that car with your real money. And then you can go and buy that car for in-game currency and play with it. So you have to pay pretty much twice. So first with your real money and then with virtual money. So to repeat once again, you cannot just go and buy a Ferrari Roma, for example, just by grinding. You have to pay real money for that car. And I remind you, this game, Forza Horizon 5, has 88% positive reviews on Steam, while CREW MOTORFEST has mixed reviews, which is like 60% positive. In CREW MOTORFEST, you can buy every single car with in-game money. And of course, some cars are more expensive than the others, but you still have the option to grind. Also, if you play the previous game, which is CREW 2, you can just transfer all your cars from that game. So overall, because of the reasons I just said, I'll give 1 point to CREW MOTORFEST and 0.6 to Forza. Once again, Forza has a huge amount of very nice cars, but it would be even nicer if you could actually be able to drive them in first place. I will now say a few words about the gameplay, the races and all of that. First of all, it is pretty obvious that CREW MOTORFEST is trying to copy Forza. You get all these playlists that I mentioned previously, you get seasons, there is this whole festival atmosphere around the map. CREW is really trying to be like Forza. And this is obviously a big thumbs up to Microsoft for originality, because the whole idea behind the game was kind of very innovative and everyone tries to copy it now. I also have to give some credit to CREW MOTORFEST though. All playlists are very different from each other and pretty enjoyable. Both games, for example, have a set of missions in collaboration with Donut Media, but I liked it kind of more in CREW MOTORFEST. The game has also playlists with some other internet people, and frankly, I really liked that Ubisoft decided to experiment with different sorts of modes and missions in the game. The game kind of really benefited from that. In Forza, at least in my opinion, after you do a couple of missions or storylines, they kind of start to feel repetitive, which is of course not really entertaining. Also, I like that in CREW MOTORFEST, they have way more races. What I mean is that when you just open your map, you have tons of them available to you. Crew also has boats and aviation, although I'm pretty sure most of us still prefer cars. Those kinds of events are also pretty fun. So once again, Crew Motorfest gets 1 point, and Forza is really close on this, so it gets 0.9. The last category is the map. Both games are open world. Forza takes place in Mexico, Crew takes place in Hawaii. I know that the map in Crew is a bit smaller, but it actually feels a bit bigger than in Forza. In Crew we got lots of big mountains and volcanoes, so there are almost no long straight roads out there, and it takes a lot of time to drive from one part of the island to the opposite one. In Forza, on the other hand, we have this huge long straight highway, so if you got a really fast car, then you can pretty much drive to the other side of the map in like a minute, which makes the map feel a bit smaller. What I like more about Forza is that since their map is not based on some real-life location, they designed the whole map themselves, so different parts of the map look very different. You get the desert, the jungle, the volcano, and so on. In Crew, on the other hand, the map is based on one of the Hawaiian islands from real life, so it's a bit less diverse. One cool thing about Crew though is that they are expanding the map. For example, there will be a new island coming out in early November 2024, of course if Ubisoft doesn't get bankrupt before then. In Forza, I don't actually recall if they ever done something like that, but I remember they added a couple of times some new objects to the map, like some pyramids or something similar. So once again, both games are pretty close, but Forza, in my opinion, has a slightly better map. So it gets 1 point and Crew gets 0.9. Alright, now it's time to count the results. So we had 7 categories so far, and after summing everything up, we get 5.6 points for Forza Horizon 5 and 6.1 points for Crew Motorfest. Surprise, surprise! So does this mean that Crew is better than Forza then? I mean, I think everyone should just decide this for themselves, because someone can argue, for example, that physics are way more important than the map, or that the graphics are way more important than the sound, so ultimately it's very hard to come up with some unbiased result. I would suggest looking at each category individually, rather than at the total sum, and then just decide for yourself. One thing that this final result shows though, is that Crew Motorfest is probably a bit underrated. And like I said previously, I think it's mostly because the game is made by Ubisoft, and I don't really get why, but everyone hates Ubisoft for some reason. Alright, that was it. Thank you for watching this video and follow for more.